Break down both of these investigations, we're going to bring in former ATF agent Scott Sweetow. He joined us earlier this week. He's also the president of S3 Global Consulting. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hope you are well as well. So we're going to talk about Richmond, first of all, a thwarted mass shooting, one that did not take place, thankfully. How does it work when you get a tip from the public? Because after a crime, it seems like tips pour in, and a lot of them are false leads. But this was a tip ahead of time. So what machinery goes into action there to go from a tip to an arrest and the thwarting of a plot?
Well, I think law enforcement, because of some problems that have happened in the past, has learned that there really has to be a good mechanism for sorting out this avalanche of tips that tend to come in daily on all sorts of things, to try to figure out what sort of information might be actionable. And by actionable, I mean something that sounds serious, it sounds plausible, and then to be able to actually do something about it. And Richmond's really a model for this see something, say something thing that you hear all over the place, and it shows just how powerful it can be if people do get information and then report it to law enforcement. And in this case, it's pretty apparent that it prevented another tragedy from occurring.
Now, I know you're not an attorney, you're a former ATF agent, but when it comes to actually getting a search warrant, what do you have to tell a judge from a tip? Like, how can you substantiate a tip and then go get a warrant and then search a house and then thwart this plot? Because it's not just A to B. It's got to be more difficult than that.
Yeah, I obtained countless search warrants during my career, both local search warrants and also federal search warrants. Local search warrants tend to be much easier to get than federal search warrants, but it's really all about showing probable cause. And that means that you've hit a particular legal burden that allows a judge to issue you permission under the Fourth Amendment rules that law enforcement really lives and dies by, that you can go over and search and seize someone else's property. So it's a written showing. Sometimes it can be telephonic to a judge, and then that judge gives you permission to go over and conduct a search. It's really not much more complicated than that.
Well, turning now to Illinois, police here have said that they have gotten a confession out of the shooter, Robert Crimo III. How often do you get a confession from somebody in a situation like this?
You'd be surprised if you're a good interviewer, just how often you can get a confession. Obviously, people have heard of Miranda. What a lot of people don't understand is that Miranda is really kind of a two-pronged test. You have to have someone that's in custody and interrogation. So law enforcement can go over and talk to someone, and if they're not in custody, they don't have to read them their Miranda rights. But it's all about that art and skill of being able to talk to someone and get them to give you information. It requires a lot of practice. It's not something you can do by texting someone or, you've really got to get in front of the person and build some sort of rapport with them and make them want to tell you the information. But a skilled interviewer or interrogator is going to be successful more often than you might think.
Well, and this is my last question to you. We understand that he admitted that he drove to Madison, Wisconsin, and considered another attack on the same day. And this is new information for us this morning, but is that actionable, that someone says, well, I drove there and I thought about it, and then I drove back and I didn't do it? Can you do anything with that if you're trying to make a case against this alleged shooter?
Well, the fact that he already confessed to the one crime, and certainly agencies out there, FBI, ATF, the Highland Park Police Department are going to be working to make sure they build an airtight case. But it's fascinating that not only did he try to flee the area to get away, but then when he was up in Madison, and I'm very familiar with the area because I used to be responsible for the state of Wisconsin when I was the special agent in charge for ATF in that region, it's not a very distant drive. It's a fairly easy drive, in fact, from Highland Park. And the fact that he had another weapon, ammunition, and was considering a second mass shooting, I think that really goes to his overall state of mind, that if he tries to say, well, he just temporarily snapped, and that's why he did the shooting, the fact that he was considering a second one, I think, will strengthen the case.
All right, former ATF agent and president of S3 Global Consulting, Scott Sweetow, thank you for coming on the show.